Hello, everyone. How you doing? You're very welcome to this week's Last Word in Formula One. And as always, to talk about all things Formula One, we have our resident Formula One expert. That is Michael O'Grady. Hello, Michael. How are you? Are you well?
I'm not too bad at all, Aidan. How are you?
Oh, sure, not too bad. Not too bad, Zoom user. Yeah, so
Zoom user.
plenty to talk about today. We are looking ahead to the Austrian Grand Prix and also some Formula One news as well.
We are indeed. And to kick off Austria, of course, I was at Kraftwerk last night. I know they're German, but they're not that far away from Austria. So, we just promoted a little bit in different ways. So we put it that way.
Exactly. And just to take people through the schedule for the weekend, the second of July. It's the race is on the 2nd of July. Sorry, right. We'll start at the bottom, right? On the 30th of June is practice one from 12:30 to 1:30. On Saturday the 30th, or on the 30th, qualifying from 4 till 5. And on the 1st of July, that's tomorrow, it's the sprint shootout. The 1st of July, then from 3:30 to 4 is the sprint. And then on Sunday, the 2nd of July, is the race itself. So I suppose looking at this, looking at that is it's going to be very interesting. I suppose time wise, and well, we'll go on to the track itself as well in a few minutes. But could you take us through? We say maybe past best lap times and things like that.
Well, I mean, what did we have last year? Last year we had lap times of fastest lap was Max Verstappen. Oh, there's a surprise. At 1 minute and 7.275 seconds. That's quick for a lap at this track. That is pretty fast. Actually, pole position was also got by Max Verstappen, and that was a 1 minute and 4 seconds, 0.9. So you kind of lose about 3 seconds in race pace compared to qualifying time, which I suppose is understandable to a certain amount. So I'd be expecting really the same sort of speeds this time around. You're not going to see that much difference with the cars, really. Maybe a few, maybe half a second, maybe for Max or somebody like that. It is a great little track, as we know. Very picturesque area in Austria, and it's big, big, big favourite of the drivers down a very, very long time at this stage. And it's got three DRS zones. One in sector one, one in sector two, and one in sector three. They are all practically on top of each other. So this is going to be quite interesting because we cast our minds back, especially to last year with the early clashes between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. One would get by in the first DRS zone, and then the other person to take it back on the second DRS zone with the extra power. Well, now you've three DRS zones, one after the other, with a corner just separating each one. So that's going to make for interesting driving, to say the least. So will he take it? Then the other guy take it back. Then he take it. Who knows? But it's going to be fun. It's going to be good to see exactly what happens there. Now I have to admit, it's going to be very interesting. Then you have the twisty turny section between turn 4 and turn 10. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not a particularly slow track, this. To be honest with you, most of those turns are reasonably high speed turns. The only two slow ones you really have is turn 3, which is the end of DRS zone 2, I suppose,
Yeah,
or DRS 1, because I think it goes 1, 2, and then 3's around the back, and on to the next DRS zone, which would be good because, once you've been flying down the track at high speeds, and then suddenly you're coming into a pretty reasonably sharp corner, about I suppose about 130, 140 degrees. It's going to mean, it's going to make for a bit of late braking to see who can get on
yeah.
that DRS next. But then again, at the same time, you don't really want to overtake them before then. But if you've passed the activation point, which is right on top of the corner, and then you get by, you've already got DRS. Even though you're past them, because you've gone over the activation line, you're less than a second behind them. You've now got it. So it would be very interesting to see if some drivers actually overtake on the corner and have DRS at the same time going down the
Yeah.
straight. It's going to be an interesting situation, I have to admit. It's just a little bit different in that way. If I'm going to be eager to see what happens, as I say, in sprint and sprint qualifying and sprint shootout and sprint. It's going to be a long weekend for drivers this weekend. Is all I have to say. The last five pole sitters. Well, last year we had Max 21, we had Max 2020, we had Valtteri Bottas in the Mercedes. Not doing as well in the Alpha this year, but that's okay. Charles Leclerc in 19 and Valtteri Bottas in 2018. I think we can all pretty much assume it's going to be Max Verstappen this year, unless there is an issue. You can never tell. It's like everything. Anyone can make a mistake. You know, he may be the best driver out there at the moment, but he's not fireproof. You know what I mean? Things can happen. The last 5 winners, of course, Charles Leclerc won it last year, which people tend to forget. Everyone thinks Max Verstappen, Max Verstappen. No, Charles Leclerc won it last year. Max Verstappen won it the year before. And then you had Valtteri Bottas in 2020, and then Max Verstappen 19 and 18. 19 and 18 when Mercedes were dominant, actually, which is interesting. So really, Max has won it sort of 3 times in the last 5 years. It's pretty good, really, when you think about it. I'm just looking here at the tires to say there is 71 laps. It is a short lap time. They're bringing in the C3 hard compound, the C4 medium compound, and the C5 soft compound. Again, if you are here for, you are worried about tires and things, it isn't really an issue with these cars. It's basically to manage the cars to make sure it's similar in every race rather than, give it different details and different things and different that to try and keep everything the same. Traction here is quite good, but quite abrasive. So it's going to be fun to see what they're going to do on the tires. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if anyone below 10th place, I'd say quite a few will start on hard tires and maybe try and push it to one stop. I think the smart money personally is on 2 stops. But that's just me. I'm not a race engineer, or planner, or strategist, or anything like that. I'm sure, Aidan, you'd know more about that.
Oh no, I'll leave that up to yourself. But I suppose I'm just looking at the plan of the track here, and there's kind of there's 2 straight, there's 3 straight really. There's 1 short straight and 2 kind of longish enough ones. Now there is one of them that's kind of has a slight bend, but not big enough to actually call it a bend, if you know what I mean. You probably know where the one I'm on about. It's on the left hand side as you look at the screen. Now, for anyone that's interested in looking at the plan of the track, it's available on Formula1.com. Go to schedule, choose the Austrian Grand Prix, and go down the page, and you'll see the plan of the track. There is one kind of dangerous bend, maybe one, maybe 2. It is a very interesting track, but like you said, I suppose it is a short lap time. But I suppose, like, the way so far this year, or we say other ones to come as well, other Grand Prix to come as well. It's kind of, you see the weekend, and it could be, raining for the qualifiers, and next thing it'll be sunshine it could be sunshine then on the day of the race, or even vice versa. But I think this is more of a kind of a consistent, it doesn't tend to be that way in Austria. Or what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I was looking there at Fernando Alonso yesterday, and I'm just going to check to see what he has up now. He reckoned it was going to rain. Rain all weekend. And yes, it does say that here. It says rain Friday, rain Saturday, but it's now because it's cloudy on Sunday. There is still a 20% chance of rain on Sunday. But look, Friday and Saturday, you're looking at 60% to 80% chance of rain. So it looks like it's going to be a wet weekend. Now, that's also going to throw up its own little spanner because, of course, Saturday you're going to have sprint shootout and it's going to be wet. And then, for all intents and purposes, currently by the weather forecast, on Sunday it's going to be dry, which, as we saw recently, that really does tend to throw the drivers a bit because they're used to driving around in wet weather tires. Okay, they should be good at driving around in dry weather tires. Well, they are, but it's like everything. If you want to get an extra 10th of a second out of something, that's a very difficult thing to do. You need to know what those tires are going to do. So that is the problems really with it being wet one day and dry the next day. I'm sure it would suit the drivers if Friday and Saturday are going to rain for a rainy Sunday too. That's the way it is, I suppose. To a certain extent, there's not much you can do about that, as to say, it is interesting though in the way you were talking about those couple of turns. They are quite steep, I suppose, on such a short track, perhaps, is what we're looking at. And really the only ones to kind of there isn't that many tracks or many corners to keep an eye on. But turn three will be absolutely pivotal, as will the Nicky Lauda corner, turn one. That'll be pretty pivotal as well. The rest of them really aren't really going to worry anybody. I suppose maybe track or turn 10 might, because they're going to be jogging for position. One guy is going to be in front of the other. He's not going to want to pass
And
him because he's
there
coming
is
in.
a few bends there as well where, if it is going to rain on the day, I know you were saying it could be fine on the day, but that there could be a few bends there that if it was raining on the day, there could be a bit of slipping and sliding going on
Oh yeah.
at those. Because obviously not ideal braking conditions. When you're coming out to a bend.
Yeah, well, that's very true. The kind of sharp ones, I'd say, lads will be careful on. Well, I think if anyone's going to come a cropper, they're going to be very careful between 5 and 8, because it kind of goes to the left hand side and you're straight left hand, and then you have a little kick right. So you're going left and then you're kicking right.
So you're
So
kind of more
that's
drifting in certain, just before you come up to certain bends, aren't you? Really, to kind of not crash, but just kind of, because you want to gain time as well. You don't want to lose time, but
correct.
so it's kind of how you take them.
Yeah, it is how you take them. I mean, primarily in a lot of racing drivers, they'll take the left and then they'll straighten the car for maybe half a second and then they'll take the right. And I've
Yeah.
seen the Formula One drivers doing it as well. Some of them are, you had people like Jenson Button. He was so smooth, it was unbelievable. You couldn't even see if he was stopping or not. Incredible driver. And there are a few out like that. But to me, yeah, if you're going to go through a left turn and then change to a right turn and a sweep, I'd keep it straight for about half a second and then I'd go, over straight and then go. I'd say it'd nearly be safer. But these guys know better than we do. It will be interesting though. That seems to be very challenging, but it would be for me, because obviously, the other corners, you're taking a right, turning right or turning left, you just take it handy and you know what way you're going. Whereas, if you're taking an S, you have to change direction. Not such a good thing. Probably to Formula One drivers, nothing is to say.
That's it. And I suppose really, what is, yeah, like, I mean, on race day, the winning times, of the race, has it been fairly consistent over the years, or like, do you find that it has depended on the weather conditions? And I suppose with regard to the drivers, who is it going to be more suitable to? I suppose, look, it's hard to look beyond Verstappen as well, but I suppose in certain races so far this year as well, I suppose Lewis Hamilton has been doing well in certain races as well. It's a very interesting race in that sense.
Yeah, he'll do well in sprint shootout because he's a good wet driver. And kind of, I suppose the advantages of the car are not really as important, slightly, but they come down a bit in wet weather conditions. So I'm sure Lewis will be absolutely, hoping he can do very well here. I think, yeah, looking beyond Max is difficult, because you're going to be looking at either Lewis or Fernando in front of it. And if Lewis is there, Fernando's going to want to be by him, and vice versa. We won't go there. But if you look at it last year, it was Max was a 1 minute 4. You had Charles Leclerc. Actually, Charles Leclerc won it last year. Sorry, I'm looking the wrong way around. I was looking at the pole position. Charles Leclerc won it last year with Max Verstappen the second and a half behind him. But then you had Lewis and the Mercedes at 41 seconds behind that.
It's
The
huge.
Ferraris, the Red Bull, massive, absolutely massive. That's over half a lap, over the course of an entire race, you'd have to say. Now, Lewis is going to have a point to push on that one. He's not going to want to be that far behind this year, and I don't think he will, especially in wet conditions. But I think there's going to be a fight for second place providing nobody goes off the track, which they might, between Alonso and Lewis. I think if it's dry, it'll be advantage Alonso. So we'll wait and see. And if it's wet, it'll be 50-50. So we'll have to wait and see what exactly goes on there. If you look, actually, it's just a little important thing I saw there. Most wins with drivers. No one's won this race more than 3 times. So if Max Verstappen wins it on Sunday, he'd have been the first driver to win it 4 times. No one's ever done that before. So
There
that's
you go.
interesting. And the other two that hold 3 is Joe Stifford. You're going back a bit there. And Alain Prost, the great Alain Prost. And constructor with the most wins, well, that's Ferrari. That's nearly every case. As to say, they are the most successful F1 team of all time, as to say. Even though they're not doing well, they have one hell of a history, as to say, yourself.
Mm.
So it's going to be quite interesting from that aspect. So yeah, you'd almost hope it rains on Sunday, really, just to see,
Just to put the cat
how
among
teams
the
are going to.
pigeons.
Hey, well, it often makes a race more interesting as
Yeah,
well. If you've a race that's kind of a lot of the races this year have kind of settled down,
yeah.
and nothing really happens bar in the back 10, which is important. I'm not saying the back 10 drivers aren't, but of course you get, Sky and everybody tends to focus on who's in the top 10, and you kind of lose what's going on other than the odd occasional to show you a pass. So kind of, most people want the fighting to be in the top 10, not in the back 10. So, if maybe if it's dry and it rains, could be a good situation there to be total chaos.
So it's going to be an interesting. So your top five, just to reiterate, there, your top five.
Well, I'd say my top five based on everything. I put Max in second. I'm going to put Fernando back, or Max in first. I'm going to put Fernando back in second, and I'm going to put Lewis in third. I think Charles Leclerc is going to want to finish fifth badly, but I think he's going to have a big fight with Russell about that. So I'm putting fourth and fifth in as George Russell and Charles Leclerc. I think Charles won't get past fifth because I think Ferrari are very badly on the back foot at the minute. They've a fast car, but they're not quite sure what's going on. So that's the way I'd see it anyhow. And if I'm wrong, well, I didn't say
That's it. And
it.
you're not often right, but you're never wrong.
I exactly. I changed my mind beforehand.
So I suppose with 2 minutes left, what's the sports? What's the Formula One news?
Well, the Formula One news at the moment, I'm not going to go through betting guide because I think everybody has a fair idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Esteban Ocon was playing down issues last week with in Montreal with the Alpine with the rear wing issues. I'm sure the eagle-eyed amongst us pointed out severely by commentators saw the back going like that quite a lot. He's kind of passed it off as just one of those things. Personally, I don't know. I would not been happy to be driving behind him now, to be quite honest with you. I'd have been very concerned about driving along, behind him. But anyway, it worked out, as to say. Alpine are targeting Hollywood at the moment. Oh, yes. It seems Ryan Reynolds is going to be backing Alpine in their future ventures. Now, as to whether that's financially or just a figurehead or doing advertisements, I have no idea. But they've got Ryan Reynolds on board, so that should be interesting. Maybe Deadpool can do a spin around one of the racetracks one of the.
That's great. So listen, thanks very much for taking the time out to do Formula One. Last word on Formula One with us this week, and we look forward to doing it all again next week. And looking back, what should be a very interesting Austrian Grand Prix.
At least we hope so.
And hopefully people will escape unscathed. So thanks very much, and we'll talk to you next week.
No problem. Talk to you then, Aidan.
No problem. Thanks very much. And that was Michael O'Grady, our Formula One expert.
So now they didn't